We've all seen what our generosity can do for others. We've seen what can happen when we give of our time and our energy and our money. We've seen videos and photos of people getting blankets after a devastating earthquake, children singing "Jesus Loves Me" at a Bible school, people learning necessary life skills at a church, ministers traveling all around the world, delivering the gospel to people who desperately need to hear it. It's awesome what our generosity can do. But generosity is a funny thing. See, when we give of our time and our energy and our money, we're usually thinking about how those things affect the other. We're rarely thinking about how our generosity changes us, how our generosity affects us. I recently read a book called The Paradox of Generosity. And its premise is that when we give of ourselves, we are the ones that are most affected. By spending ourselves for others' well-being, we enhance our own standing. And letting go of some of what we own, we better secure our own lives. By giving ourselves away, we ourselves move toward flourishing. By giving ourselves away, we ourselves move toward flourishing. How weird is that? It is weird, yes, but it's actually true. The authors of the book looked at 4 areas of generosity: voluntary financial giving, volunteering, relational generosity, and neighborly generosity. Now, the first 2 are pretty easy to understand. Voluntary financial giving is when we want to give our money, when we want to give to an organization or an institution, when we want to give money. Volunteering is pretty easy to understand too. It's when we want to give of our time to church camp, to vacation Bible school, or maybe at your local museum. Relational generosity is a little harder to understand, and I hope that you'll forgive me, but I think it's best described by a Facebook article that I read. Now, relationships are the strongest when we bid for each other, meaning, say one person is sitting reading a newspaper. The other partner is at the window looking at a bird and says, "Hey, why don't you come over and look at this bird? I think you'll love it." Now, the person who's sitting reading the newspaper has a choice. They can still sit there, ignoring the request, reading the newspaper. Or they can close the newspaper, put it down, and walk over and look at the bird. What the Facebook article said is that relationships who say yes to these bids 80% of the time have the strongest relationships. These are the relationships that listen to each other, that care about the other person, that want what is best for the other person, even if it means going out of your own way. This is relational generosity, when we are kind to each other, when we care about the other. Finally, there is neighborly generosity. And yes, neighborly generosity means that we're kind to our neighbors. Say you're going out of town, and you say to your neighbor, "Will you watch my cat while I'm out of town?" And the neighbor says yes. That is neighborly generosity. But neighborly generosity can be with friends and family from all over your city too. It might mean taking a casserole to someone who's recently lost her father, or visiting an elderly friend who can no longer clean their house, and so you clean it for them. That's what neighborly generosity is. So after an extensive survey of thousands of people asking about their generosity in those 4 areas, and also asking about their happiness, their bodily health, their life's purpose, their interest in their personal growth and avoidance of depression, the authors found something very surprising. They found that the people who practice these types of generosity in those 4 areas are the happiest people. They are the healthiest people. They have a life's purpose, and they have an interest in their own personal growth. And for the most part, they avoid depression. Now, this book, of course, has bar graphs and statistics and charts to show us all of this information. It's all kinds of mathematical tools that I love to look at. But the biggest proof to me is seeing the generous people around me. These are the people who care deeply for me and who care deeply for the people around them. These are the people who you don't mind asking for their help because you know they won't make you feel badly for needing it. These are the people who ask you questions about what you think everyone else has already forgotten about. These are generous people. These are the people who live generous lives. So the next time you put money in the plate or help your neighbor clean out their gutters, yes, you should absolutely know that your generosity makes a difference. Your generosity touches other people. Putting money in the plate changes lives. Helping your neighbor clean his gutters changes lives. But you should also remember that your generosity changes you too. By giving of ourselves, we ourselves move toward flourishing.